that. The fact that certain, you know, areas of China actually represent certain teams.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That would be something so cool if we had it here as well, Grapes, but that's never going to happen. We can dream, but it's never going to happen.
Maybe one day. You know, the Overwatch League tried it maybe a little bit too prematurely. So,
yeah, definitely too prematurely.
Hey, fandom exists here in China, exists here in Suzhou as we get ready for our picks and bans of game number 1. LNG over on the blue side. They're going to lock into Talia for Haichao to start things off.
So now I think the onus is going to be on Ultra Prime to probably just take away a lot of good jungle pairings with that. Talia Zhenzhao is one that screams to mind. Talia Wukong is also a decent combination, especially because, like we said in game number 2 of the last series, Grapes, Wukong isn't really a champion that likes to go and do stuff early, and neither is Talia. I think they both really spike at that level 6 mark, so denying that combo should be really valuable for Ultra Prime in this draft. Pairing it up with Annie as well, I think provides a good amount of just AoE damage going into these team fights. And now it just became a lot spicier.
Yeah, I mean, Viego is normally like a game 3 pick, I feel like, when we play these Fearless series, but hey, looks like they want to pick it up a little bit earlier for Xiaofang, who has been a very nice carry player here for LNG throughout their season. The one win that LNG has been able to get in Group Nirvana this year was Xiaofang on the Viego. So looks like they're going to try to keep that level of you know, consistency.
I like this, you know, play around what works. And LNG, they have experimented with a ton of different styles over the course of their 3 series and, you know, 7 games that they've played. In fact, the only people, obviously Fearless, you know, makes the stat a little bit less impressive, but the only people that have played champions more than once on this team are Zika with 2 Mbessa games and 2 Jax games, and then 2 Rise games coming out for Haichao. Everyone else has played all uniques. Xiaofang has played something different every single time. Zhuo is the same. And Fishone is a little bit different because this is his first official LPL match. So it's just been kind of, you know, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And it certainly seems like LNG are adopting that strategy going into game number 1 by picking, like you said, the jungler that gave LNG that first win.
And, you know, very curious to see what Fish1 does look like here, as he still has to lock in a 80 carry in the second rotation of the draft. Actually got a chance to talk to one of our friends here on LPL English and Super K-Man Rocks. He's actually following a little bit of the LDL and the Asia Masters event and was watching Fish1 with LNG Academy back a couple of weeks ago. And he said, a guy that can be very explosive, likes these very aggressive picks. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kaiser get locked in here, Quacks. Even though there is a lot of decent disengage here with something like the Braum.
Yeah, a Kaisa could be good, like a Zeri as well, I think is possible. If it's a Senna lock in here, I will actually be kind of sad, because I think from the description that K-Man put on this player, this is like the complete opposite of what he likes to do or what he's used to playing and good at. But nonetheless, Senna, you know, that's okay. As LNG, I mean, maybe like... Whoa, okay, Rumble 5th pick is interesting to me, because now Ultra Prime, do Ultra Prime 5P like a Galio top lane?
That would be weird, especially for Zhang. I feel like you want to have... The Gwen's already locked in, so he's going to be playing that. The Rumble's a response into it. So now they're looking actually for Baiye's selection. Sivir, one of his favorite picks, banned away, so they're going to go Smolder for a little bit of extra scaling. This is always a good...
this is always fun.
Counter matchup into the Senna. Because Senna cannot contest very hard in the early laning phase, you just lock in the Smolder and scale for free.
Yeah, frankly, a lot of people like to talk about this being, you know, who's going to scale better. Whoever scales better and gets more stacks is going to be the winner and be more relevant in the late game. Straight up, Smolder is just a better champion, in my opinion. Right now, at the current moment, I think since the Senna soul stack nerfs, you know, that percentage went back down to 10%, hasn't really been the same, and I think teams are just kind of picking this one out of comfort. I really think that Senna has lost a lot of her luster over the past month or so, as Smolder is just better. So I agree with you, Grapes. I think that this is certainly going to be a lane where Baiye is free stacking, happy to do so, and frankly, the rest of Ultra Prime are happy to scale. We talked about that level 6 sort of breakpoint for the mid-jungle duo, and then Gwen as well is kind of the same as Smolder, where you're just waiting until that moment where you can 1v5.
Yeah, really nice team composition opened up here, you know, on Ultra Prime's side. As long as the Wukong Annie combo can deliver the engages, the rest of the fight should go rather smoothly. On LNG's side, a little bit more all over the place. They're going to have to obviously go for the resets here with the Viego, try to find picks with Nautilus. They're going to have to be a little bit more creative in terms of how they find their engages.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned the resets, and obviously with Taliyah, you know, you got to be able to use that Weaver's Wall to sync up with your jungler and also to just secure a lot of these objectives. I feel like if you are going against a team that has Smolder, a team that has a lot of this scaling, if you're just giving up dragons for free, this game is not going to work out in your favor. So I really want to see LNG utilize that artificial terrain to try and box in Ultra Prime around these objectives so that they can deny those Drakes and those objectives in general from being claimed by the opposing team.
As we've begun game number 1 of our matchup in the lower bracket in Group Nirvana, our lower group, Group Nirvana, our lower teams in Group Nirvana. If the season ended today, both LNG and Ultra Prime would be going home. Time is ticking for them to try and remedy that, to try to jump up into that top 4 of the group. And again, expectations for both of these teams entering the season definitely very different. LNG, a very surprising situation that they have been in after a Worlds appearance just a year ago. Yeah. Obviously, the roster swaps that they ended up going for, not finding the most success and having to do a lot of moving around in terms of the players that they have taken onto the Rift. Now a new addition to their lineup in Fish1, making his LPL debut on the set.
Yeah, congratulations to Fish1. Big achievement for him. It's just a question of how he's going to fare against Baiye on this Smolder. I expect the early game in this bot side to be rather cordial, right? Just everyone kind of stacking up, not really interfering much with the opposing team. Maybe we'll see a dredge line here and there, some poke thrown out by Zhuo or XiaoXia. But other than that, I think the AD carries are more than likely just going to be hitting the minions more than the enemy champions.
As you say that, Zhuo goes for a bit of an engage, and you can see why Nautilus gets countered by Braum a little bit. As soon as you just go in, you can just stack up those concussive blows, makes it very difficult for any sort of follow-up off of that. So Zhuo taking a bit of a hit. Though it is the bot lane here for LNG, hitting level 2 first, not going to matter too much. As again, the scaling game is the priority, and we can see that clearly with both of our junglers actually pathing up towards the top side of the map.
Yep, and naturally on the blue side, it is going to be Xiaofang, who will likely be on the crab faster. But he's got to be careful about doing that, because maybe if Junhao decides to cut and really puts priority on the fact that he has you know, the ability for his top laner to roam on down toward that river, could look to put an early thorn into the side of this Viego. Like we talked about, a big win con for LNG, particularly in the early game. They have the late game insurance at the Senna, but they need to make sure their jungler is in a spot where he can snowball.
He's going to get the early clear advantage, at least for now. Actually, it looks like Junhao doing a better job. Xiaofang is still on the blue buff. Important to note that he just used his smite, and actually going to be kiting back towards the bottom side of the river, so not wanting to actually engage into that Wukong, knowing that Zhang has push and also has the exhaust as a secondary summoner spell.
Yeah, I'm surprised that actually escaped us until 3.5 minutes in, Grapes. That's going to be a major component at the very least. If nothing else, to help your jungler, you know, close the gap between, you know, the river and going on for the gank, which is important because neither of you have a bunch of concrete CC until that Cyclone and Needlework get unlocked. But it's also going to be really good, I think, at, you know, negating the damage that Rumble can actually do. That burst damage is one of the best traits of that champion. So having that exhaust to just temper that a little bit does have a lot of uses. And I'm just interested to see how and when he's going to be able to use them.
It's always, you always go like, you know, Gwens don't normally go with the flash. You often see Ignite, sometimes a ghost. The exhaust, yeah, okay, gonna be pretty helpful here, even if you put it onto Xiaofang, right? Like, making sure that like just that first threshold of a kill is not reached. Make sure those resets don't happen is gonna be pretty important here once we get later on into the game. So, very curious to see how that exhaust is used. And Zhuo making an early impact in mid lane via a roam and forcing Saber to flash away.
Yeah, it was a game of chicken there. Whoever flashed first was going to be in a world of trouble. But luckily, I think Saber backs up enough to the point where it doesn't matter that he flashes. He manages to get away. Zhuo, though, not too displeased with that result, I would imagine, as now they're roaming up toward the top side, initiating an early swap, and should be able to, in the 1v2 lane, get push. This will allow Zhuo to revisit the mid lane in time and potentially get a kill onto his team's name the second round.
And for Zhuo, kind of has to take another step towards a leadership role on this team, both because, you know, a lot of the roster changes have happened, but most specifically, you know, Fish1 and then LP, of course, before him, both coming from the academy system, both rookies. And for Zhuo, who's, again, celebrating his, like, 7th year anniversary as being a professional player, we've talked about all the rosters that he was a part of back on, you know, that top esports team in 2021. He was really the new guy who was learning from the likes of Jackie Love. Now he kind of has to take on that mantle himself, obviously in a different circumstance, as this is no longer a team that has those title contentions of the LPL in their sights, but still a good opportunity for him to kind of learn from his experiences and try to pass that on to his teammates.
Yeah, and we're seeing that in small little increments, that leadership quality that you talked about, Grapes. Just taking charge, making those plays, burning those early flashes. And now because Saber is forced to play so safely in the mid lane, this has just allowed Haichao to get a ton of priority as this Talia, and that'll net them a lot of control over this dragon. And yeah, Ultra Prime are just going to have to be looking the other way, as the teleport will actually be the last thing that tells them to completely back off. And it's Zhuo, so there you go, and another good play there by the Nautilus.
Forcing Ultra Prime away. They're not in a good position. They're not in a good enough position to actually go for a fight, as Zhuo hunting a little bit with that dredge line. Being a little bit annoying at this point onto Junhao. Not really a threat of the kill just yet, but now Ultra Prime want to go on the offensive. The Weaver's Wall is blocking out Saber and Baiye, but now Haichao has been singled out, getting stunned by the Tibbers, but using the seismic shove to push Junhao away. So nobody will go down just yet, with the Dragon going over to LNG.
LNG, though, despite getting the Dragon, not going to be able to get a kill. And it felt like they were just a little too divided. Zika was on that top side. It dropped a really decent equalizer, but I think Haichao being caught there and not really allowing Ultra Prime to, you know, fester down toward that bot side of the river a little bit more. They could have tried to box them in, but they found a target onto the Talia, and they immediately turned around. So LNG not able to reel them in toward that bot side enough to actually finish the job, but still, they managed to get the objective at the end of the day. So can't be too disappointed in that.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a team that, you know, both teams kind of want to scale, but if you're LNG, definitely happy to be controlling these objectives, because it means that around like that 20-minute mark, if you try to, you know, continue to stack these Drakes, you could really force a 5v5, maybe before Ultra Prime are ready, maybe before Baiye hits the 225 stacks. That would be a really good chance for LNG to try to break the game open and continue to try to stack these objectives. So overall, feeling pretty good about things there. Xiaofang off to a good start. But overall, we are very even. And this is something, Quacks, that we kind of talked about before we got into the game during our breaks. But LNG, throughout their game so far, very, very passive. And whether that's because of Zika or Xiaofang or whatever leadership, not really wanting to go for many fights. They love disengaging. They don't love going for bench stuff. As I say that, though, a little bit of skirmishing up here, as it's going to be XiaoXia knocked back with that seismic shove and getting chunked very low, forced to flash away. Baiye kiting out nicely, but it's going to allow for Xiaofang to at least pick up that first scrub, with Junhao and Saber now joining the fray. They're going to secure another, so it's 1-for-1 overall. And now potential fight around the last one. Xiaofang has the smite, so should be able to secure it.
Oh, look at the bot side. Oh, hang on.
Oh, Junhao. He flashes in and goes in for the Cyclone, and it's going to be a little bit too far forward for XiaoXia. First blood picked up for LNG, but Xiaofang now has to flash and use the Heartbreaker to get out, but he will survive. It's a double kill in for Haichao, and they're looking for Saber as well. He will go down. 3-0, and the Feats of Warfare have gone over to Team LNG.
And it's a snap engage there for the side of Ultra Prime. They thought they had the kill onto Xiaofang, but Zhuo makes the difference, reels them in, and allows the resets to come through from the Viego. And then a beautiful escape will deny Ultra Prime anything in that fight. It's 3-0. Grubs over to LNG. They win out on the bot play unanimously. And that is just such a beautiful topside engage there, or counterpunch there rather, from Zhuo to be able to secure his jungler the gold necessary and his mid laner the gold necessary to be relevant in this game. So we're going to get a replay here, Grapes. And yeah, I mean, Zhuo just constantly looking for these stretch lines. I love how active he's been on the map so far.
And just as we say, hey, maybe LNG don't want to be very combative all the time. They decide to go for an aggressive play, and that actually ends up working out well for them. They force XiaoXia's flash early, and Zhuo continuing to hunt for these engages actually ended up baiting Junhao with that Hex Flash and then finding that immediate hook back onto the Braum.
I also kind of question why Ultra Prime even went for this play in the first place, because obviously, you know, you lose the grubs, and then at that point, you're just hunting for a kill. And I feel like, you know, just the two of you, you're really banking on that, you know, like we said, level 6 break point to do the job for you, but you don't have a ton of gold. You're not really in a winning position. Even if you get that kill, you're committing flash for it, so you have to understand that at worst, that's going to be or at best, rather, that's going to be a 1-for-1. And it ended up being at worst as they got a 3-for-0. So still, Ultra Prime not completely out of this game. 1,000 gold separates them, but that is well within their bounds to come back from, especially with this dragon coming up soon.
It's Ultra Prime now down 2,000 gold, looking to try to find some sort of response. Zhang doing a decent job up in the top side of the map, forcing Zika back and having the wave in a very nice place, but not going to have that teleport for when this dragon spawns in about 20 seconds. LNG likely in a good position to just go for that and continue to stack those objectives.
Why not, right? It's a major win here for Xiaofang as well, who completed his Trinity Force, so huge item advantage for the side of LNG. I think is going to give a lot of trepidations over to the Ultra Prime members around this bot side river, and that will be enough to probably dissuade them from even thinking about a contest.
Looks like LNG, though, they don't want to just immediately start the dragon on spawn. They're hunting for members of Ultra Prime, looking for a fight because they know that they are so powerful at this point that they have the Trinity Force advantage in the hands of Xiaofang. But Junhao wants nothing about it. He's already in the enemy jungle on the top side of the map, and that means the dragon should go over. Doesn't look like there's really a play here for Junhao other than counter jungling. Just gets a Gromp as his prize.
And 3 kills, 2 objectives, 1 more, and they already Grapes. Or wait, no, hang on. They already have the feats. What am I saying?
Yep,
that's the second. Yep, 12 minutes in, they have feats. Upgraded boots. That is, well, that's absolutely insane. Wow.
Hey, this is a reinvigorated LNG, potentially. Who knows? They have not taken a game off of many opponents so far this season, but obviously no time like the present then to go for something here. Now Xiaofang looking onto Zhang. He has his exhaust and the needlework up in 5 seconds time, so going to be a very difficult dive to try and execute on, especially with Junhao in the area.
You know, but difficult doesn't mean impossible, and Xiaofang, that's all he needs to hear, but he's going to be dissuaded at the end of the day. Yeah, Junhao just kind of waiting in the wings is going to be enough to force him to back off. Probably a good move from LNG. At this point, you know, the ball is in your court. You don't want to overforce anything that might give Ultra Prime the opportunity to actually come back. So far, it feels like that one angle for them to come back rests in that Smolder, who is still keeping up, I think, really nicely in farm. Obviously has a bit of a farm advantage over Fish One, but Fish One having those 3 assists has the gold ultimately. Still, you can never really count out, I think, this comp that Ultra Prime have drafted simply because of how hard they scale.
That is true. Once the Smolder gets to 225, all cards are back on the table in terms of what can happen here. And yeah, I mean, speaking of tomfoolery, we're here in Group Nirvana. As you saw in that last series, you've been watching here all day on LPL English. Things get wild down here. This is the Group Nirvana of Group Nirvana. The bottom teams still looking to pick up their first win of the season.
One of them is going to be forced to take the W. Which one that will be yet to be determined, but LNG are certainly walking that path at a better, faster pace than Ultra Prime so far. Herald going to be up in about 45 seconds, and I love, again, how active Zhuo has been with his teammates, whether it's Xiaofang, whether it's Haichao right now. He is still getting those deep wards, he is still syncing up with his teammates, and he is still accruing information across the board that they can use around these neutrals. And Ultra Prime, ultimately, it feels like they are just, you know, 10 to 20 to even 30 seconds behind every single time, trying to catch up. And this leaves LNG with a lot of dead time to make aggressive plays, like Zhuo going for those dredge lines to try and find XiaoXia.
Not going to hit there, but now with 10 seconds until that Herald spawns, can really set up around the pit, clear out vision, and make sure that nobody on Ultra Prime can get near that Rift Herald without being spotted by any of these trinkets that LNG have put down. It will be started up. Both top laners do have teleport and are currently on the bot side of the map. We'll see if LNG do get contested here by Ultra Prime. I feel like staying behind, knowing that the scaling is there, could be an option, but UP don't think so. They want to fight. And a hook lands onto XiaoXia immediately, but Saber finds the Tibbers onto Haichao, forcing a flash over the wall. The seismic shove, though, sends him right back over. And Junhao can't do anything to finish the kill off of the Talia. But with Zhang TPing in and Zika staying down bottom lane, it should mean that Ultra Prime secured the objective.
Ultra Prime managed to wrestle control of the top side, so they should be able to use this to at least break down a turret within the next few minutes. This will also help them possibly gain more control over the bot side dragon spawning in about a minute. They'll force LNG to respond if they place that one down. Still, though, LNG managing to get every single member out, avoiding catastrophe by giving gold over to Ultra Prime. It's just the Herald. I'm sure you lose that, but it could have been so much worse, Grapes.
Yeah, so a small win back here for Ultra Prime. The first real W I feel like they've been able to take here. And we'll see what they can use this Herald for, with Junhao having it in his inventory for the next couple of minutes. Really any tier 1 towers that have taken much damage just yet, but you can start to chip away at them as we continue to go forward. And of course, the big easy play is you always send the Herald down mid, and that gives you prio for a dragon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's classic tactic. It's a simple spell, but quite unbreakable, to quote a simple MCU hero. Those who know, know. As dragon up in about 10 seconds, Xiaofang has to be real careful.
Unfortunate. Didn't add up the burn of the jungle item enough. Yep. So it will be that Herald going over, and maybe the sign that this dragon could go over to Ultra Prime. But LNG still in the lead. About 1,000 gold or so. Would not be opposed to wanting to fight this. And as I say that, a teleport has come in from Zika. He has the equalizer at rank 2 at this point, and the dragon is not taken down very quickly. Weaver's Wall comes out. Zhuo gets stunned though, and does not land that initial dredge line as Zhang's already chunked down to 60% HP. Ultra Prime don't want to start this dragon just yet. Junhao pops the Herald. Maybe looking for a potential escape plan. Who's going to get into the pit first? It's going to be a dash over from Junhao, but it's already chunked down to half. It's stolen away by Xiaofang. And now the fight can begin in earnest as the equalizer has come out. Zhang goes in with the Herald, but he will drive it straight to his demise as LNG get a couple of kills back, as well as the dragon soul point.
And it's a disaster for Ultra Prime. The dragon gets stolen. They place the Herald. It is completely squandered. That previous advantage that they managed to wrestle from LNG completely made irrelevant. It's so unfortunate there for Ultra Prime. They lose so much, and now, Grapes, they're on a timer. That's sole point. They have got to make a play and fast. Otherwise, at the rate this game is going, a soul feels like a foregone conclusion as, yeah, we're going to just go back into the replay, and it was the thinnest of margins, but still, the Viego acquires the Drake, even if it is to his own death. We in the jungler department like to call that work.
And look at the equalizer from Zika on that play. I mean, Zhang went in with the Rift Herald, but nobody else on Ultra Prime was able to follow up because Zika's ulti was zoning them all out and frankly, taking them down very low. And that just meant that Zhang had no follow-up. He ended up dying as well. And so now Ultra Prime only went even on the fight. They got a kill onto Baiye, which is good, of course, and he's continuing to stack up. He's not going to be at 225, though, by the time this next dragon spawns, and that would be a mountain soul that then Ultra Prime would have to fight against.
Yeah, that's extremely consequential for Ultra Prime, letting that dragon go. And after Junhao worked so hard, by the way, he went in, almost risked his life, drops a Cyclone, zones off LNG, and still it's not enough. Still, Xiaofang manages to steal that away. That's a really sad moment there for the jungler of UP. Try so hard, but you don't succeed. But crucially now, it is going to be Otacon spawning in about 10 seconds. It's going to be on that top side. You can already see Ultra Prime, they're going to try and be first to the punch this time.
This one, popping the Ghost. It looks like Zhuo's going to go super aggressive here. Depth charge on top of the Equalizer with the Dawning Shadow on top. But it's not enough to take Baiye down. And here goes Zhang on the flank. Already Zhuo has gone down. But Zika is hunting the rest of Ultra Prime as they loom deviously around that Otacon.
They do indeed, but there were a lot of ultimates expended by LNG, not to mention they lost Zhuo, who does have teleports, so he should be able to, come back to the fight, but still, those R keys not going to be available for a while. So LNG, they're just saying, screw the Otacon, let's abandon it, let's go for this mid turret instead. We don't have the power to really fight this. And conveniently enough, Ultra Prime aren't really in a position to take that Otacon either, so it is LNG ultimately walking away happy despite losing their support.
And Junhao's on a reset, so that means another opportunity for Ultra Prime, or sorry, for LNG to go for another play, this time onto Zhang up in the top side of the map. They will not have enough to take down that tier 1 turret, but forcing Zhang to play a little bit more defensive, and everybody coming right back up to this Otacon. Now, Quax, I know that this is your first day on the LPL broadcast. There was one day, I think it was in Split 1, or maybe it was Split 2, in Group Nirvana. Me and Blackboxer were commentating this one. And LNG, and I forget who their opponent was, I think it was OMG, they sat around this top lane Otacon for, I kid you not, like 10 minutes without fighting, and then eventually they ended up fighting over it. It looked like we were about to set that up again, but it seems like both teams decide, hey, there's actually minions and other things that we can do that give our team gold if we decide to actually go another direction. So they're going to rotate down there and try to fill those out. So I'm happy that that was not going to happen again.
Well, quick question about that. Was this Otacon before or after the rework? Before.
It was
right,
the Revive one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because it didn't matter. That Otacon transcended regions. It didn't matter if you were a 160 IQ genius. Otacon spawns, you must fight it. It is just a universal law of League of Legends. I am eternally grateful that they reworked the Otacon system, because those old ones felt really toxic to the game. This new one is much better.
Yeah, I mean, provides like just enough power for it to be a nice objective to fight over before the Baron spawns. And
yeah,
gives teams something to contest, but nothing that has to be contested over one.
But everyone still contests it anyways, right? You don't have to, but you know you're going to.
Speaking of, hey, guess where we are? Right back to the top lane. Surprised that LNG are set up here because that Soul Dragon is just about to spawn. And Xiaofang still poking around here. They should just go down and try to take that.
Honestly, I 100% agree with you. I mean, you give up the Otacon, so what? The enemy team is already behind significantly in XP, in damage. Those are the things that Otacon provides. So it gets you a little bit closer to even, but you make up for it with a Mountain Soul. I would say that's way more worth it. And slowly but surely, they're going to be gravitating toward that part of the map. Haichao, though, has the luxury of staying a bit further behind, as he does have that Weaver's Wall. Zika
was overheated, so actually going to be in some trouble. Has to flash away from Zhang, but now he gets exhausted. The third proc leader work lands. There's the Cyclone as well. Zika just might be taken down under his own turret, and that is not a good play here, but the response will be that Otacon taken down by LNG. But you're going to say that's all right here for UP because you are continuing to scale the game out. You're going to deny that soul and get Baiye closer to 225.
Absolutely. You drag the game out an extra 5 minutes at the very least for Baiye on the Smolder. It's a kill on that bot side by Ultra Prime, but ultimately it's a very costly one as they burn a flash from Junhao, 2 ultimates, and they only get 1 kill for it. They get the dragon, so at the end of the day, that's likely why they overloaded sides, but still, it does temper Junhao's ability to really be that snap engager that his team needs him to be for the next few minutes, provided that LNG don't give him any easy opportunities to go in and Cyclone 5 or 4-3.
I don't feel like we're not going to be fighting until, all these cooldowns are back up, though, because not much to contest at this point, as we are very much playing an LNG game. And it makes sense because it is a Senna versus a Smolder, and it also is LNG playing who I feel like play the slowest games in the entire LPL.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But, that means that the fights aren't going to be super far and often. As we mentioned in our last series, between Thunder Talk and LGD, those guys, they love to fight. We would have had like 20 kills at this point. Now, very much more methodical, waiting for these players to scale, waiting for our 80 carry specifically to come online. As Baiye, 224, so he takes one more minion down, he will have that execute.
Yep. Just needs one more stack. Doesn't matter if he kills a minion, hits a champion, lands his ultimate on somebody. He's going to get that one. So the execute will be there. There's not a ton of defense on the side of LNG. Obviously, you have some tankiness from Zhuo and you have the Shroud from Fish One, but that top side really is kind of built like a glass cannon. If you can prevent the Viego resets and allow Smolder to take the extended trades, then I feel like those executes are going to come pretty quickly, given that the rest of the comp does deal so much damage. I think it's going to be up to Saber to really get someone low, allow Baiye to execute someone, and then they just kind of snowball from there by taking one member out and running over LNG with numbers advantage.
Yeah, Saber and Junhao are going to be very important for Ultra Prime to start these fights, as they are the primary engages with their ultimate abilities. And as soon as they land a combo onto somebody, then Baiye can throw out the mom, can dish out some damage. That's when the executions can start to fly through. Same thing can be said, though, on the other side for LNG. If you get a nice equalizer out from Zika, if Haichao can land that seismic shove Unraveled Earth combo, that means that Xiaofang can get a reset, get on the board as well. So these fights are going to be going on a nice edge, and even though this game is so close, would not be surprised to see if one team just gets the better engage, it being a 5-for-0, 5-for-1 fight either way.
For sure. This game can really turn on its head over one tiny little fight, one tiny little pick. Now that the Baron is up, and now that particularly LNG are at Soul Point, it really adds an extra level of gravity toward these picks, and that's why no team is really given their opposition any sort of an inch. I will say, though, for the side of LNG, I'm really looking at Haichao, right? Obviously, Fish One, as well, with the stacks on the Senna, is really important, but you gotta try and, I think, abuse the short range of this Ultra Prime comp. Sure, they have engage, but if you can keep your distance as Senna, if you can keep your distance as Talia and just whittle down those small granular attacks, then it'll amount to something, and UP won't really be in a position to actually engage you.
Yeah, the poke's going to be very important here with the range advantage that you do mention on the Senna and on the Talia. Haichao, not the best season overall, as he had some big shoes to fill of Scout after this last season, obviously, but has really been a bit of a disappointment here so far. Not necessarily the highest performing mid laner that we've had in the LPL, but in a position to succeed now, 3-0-2, working towards that third item on the Talia, and a big important reason as to how LNG can start these fights. And we've seen him get caught out a couple of times here, but has not died just yet. And honestly, that's actually ended up working out for LNG, because he spent all the attention focusing down the Talia. It allows for Xiaofang and Zika to really come online.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, there are a lot of different targets that Ultra Prime have to focus, right? Because on one hand, you want to get to that backline, but on the other, you want to deny the resets, right? Viego gets one chance, and he can just kind of roll over the game. So there are a lot of priority targets that Ultra Prime have to worry about, and they don't have a lot of time to formulate a strategy, as that Dragon is coming up in about 30 seconds. Whichever team is able to garner control of this mid wave, I think, is going to have a huge advantage in controlling that bot side river.
Teleport comes in from Zhang as the Soul Dragon once again about to become available. Xiaofang coming in forward, trying to chunk out Baiye, but now the fight has begun on the other side of things. Seismic Chef only connects onto the clone of Junhao, so no real follow-up there. But the Dragon is now available, and LNG control the pit.
The question is, who will be the first to engage? I imagine Zhuo, who's been so active with these dredge lines, is going to look for an opportunity onto Saber. You can see he's fishing. He's trying to hug that topside wall to get an angle onto the backline. He doesn't want to hook in Junhao. He doesn't want to hook in XiaoXia, but Ultra Prime are playing this very smartly position-wise.
Weaver's Wall separating everybody, gives maybe LNG a good opportunity to try to burst down the Dragon. The seismic shove lands on it too, but here comes the mom. It makes LNG kite away. The Awning Shadow over the top, but Baiye is able to pick out the first kill of the fight. But Xiaofang has now gotten a reset as well, and he transforms into the Wukong body. Zika is overheated. Fish One taken very low, nearly getting executed before he issues out the piercing light to heal himself right back up. One more Q from Baiye could secure himself an easy double kill, but instead the Dragon is going to be the focus. Who's going to get the the soul. It'll be LNG to secure it, and now they can win the fight. Baiye goes down. Jung will fall. Only Saber and XiaoXia will live as LNG get their prize and can now go to Baron.
And at the end of the day, Junhao is your main engage. He puts himself on the front lines. But the problem with being on the front lines is you are most likely to die. You lose your jungler at a pivotal moment in this game. He's not there to secure the dragon for you. You're going to lose out on that. You're going to lose out on the team fight. And to make matters extra worse, Grapes, the Baron will be the cherry on top for LNG.
We stalled out, waiting for this dragon to spawn once again. Quacks and LNG get that. They get Viaticon. Maybe took them a little bit longer than they wanted, but they win this team fight and put themselves in a great position to run away with this first game. Some good engages, some good poke from Haichao. And I thought that honestly Ultra Prime had a good chance.
I mean, Junhao honestly just goes way too far here. Sure, the dummy is good, but Xiaofang, the follow-up to just make sure that he can't get away, like you said, transforms into the Wukong body. Even if you get that Cyclone down, even if you actually survive that, it feels so difficult for you to re-enter the fight as the Wukong with how healthy these LNG members are. They just run over the rest of the Ultra Prime members. And it's a huge advantage, like you said, for them. Only 4,000 gold up, but still the objectives account for way more than 4,000 gold.
And they can have even more added to that lead with all the standing gold that still exists on the map in the form of these inner turrets. Zhang going forward with the needlework, trying to chunk out this wave at the very least and force LNG back. But things become much harder for this composition of play of Ultra Prime now that the Baron buff minions are going to continue to allow for LNG to push, and also the Mountain Soul means that just that little extra piece of damage is going to be needed for those executes to start to land.
The problem is they're just pushing down all in one lane. And Smolder now, even though you have Baron and Power minions, Smolder is really good at clearing the waves. Annie as well is pretty good at clearing the waves. You need to have that 4-1 thread, and LNG realized that, but you can already see Jiang there to counter Zika. So it will be a bit of a delayed play on the Baron, but nonetheless, they should be able to squeeze UP tighter and tighter with this play.
Junhao dashes forward, not using the Cyclone, actually baiting out the Dawning Shadow of Fishone, who is playing a little bit more on the defensive side. As regardless of the wave clear, LNG able to secure 2 of the 3 inner turrets in both mid and bottom lane. Only top lane does remain up. Baron buff still around for 50 seconds or so. And we're starting to get to the point, Quacks, where the siege of LNG is starting to come to play.
At the end of the day, LNG just really want to try and siege so that, around, less than 3 minutes until that Elder spawns, they want to prevent as much jockeying between these two teams as possible around that.
XiaoXia gets hit by one seismic shove, and then the Heartbreaker will execute, but look at the back line. That is Fishone down. A 2-kill 1K shutdown for
Not
John.
again.
Xiaofang is still alive in the transformed Viego body. He will go and take the Gwen down, but Baiye's got a couple of executes as well. A triple kill already for the Viego, looking for the quad, and he gets it onto Baiye. It looked like almost an opportunity for Ultra Prime, but the Viego will live, Zika will survive, and it's still 2 men up here for LNG.
I was getting the Thunder Talk versus LGD Gaming Game 2 flashbacks there for a minute, Grapes, but luckily, Xiaofang manages to save his team. The top side prevails, lives through the engage from Ultra Prime, and let's actually take a look at how that happened again. So again, it comes in the form of not just one TP, but to Saber lands a massive Tibbers onto the squishy members of LNG. And initially you're thinking it's good, but I think the big difference maker is just the fact that Xiaofang is so strong on this Viego, manages to get the antibody, stuns, manages to take those resets, and runs away with the fight. Saves his team from a potentially disastrous fate, but it shows us, Grapes, that Ultra Prime still have some fight in them, and 90 seconds ahead of the Dragon, LNG were hoping to beat the fight out of them by now.
Talk about a cash injection over to Zhang on the Gwen. Yeah. 2 1,000 gold shutdowns onto Haichao and Fishone. And the Baron buff, Baron power play still ended up working well for LNG, but That Gwen is very scary at this point. Getting that third item, working towards the Zhonya's Hourglass as her fourth. That's going to have to be a big part of what Ultra Prime do here in these team fights if they want to try to keep this game alive.
Ultra Prime, they have an opportunity. They've stalled out long enough to the where the Smolder has 225. The Gwen has 3 items.
4 items now. Zhonya's
4 items now, actually, yeah. This is their time to fight. They are down around 6,000, 7,000, but, you know, they didn't hear no bell, Grapes, and they are going to continue to fight. And hopefully, this is their last stand, and this is going to be the fight that I think determines who will win game 1.
Ooh, seismic shove. It lands on a Baiye. That's a Smolder at half HP. Right when the Elder Dragon was about to spawn. I was going to say, if Ultra Prime were able to get the Elder with the Smolder at now 332 stacks, that could have been a really big boon. But with Baiye forced back to base, LNG can really set up nicely around this Dragon Pit, make it very difficult for Ultra Prime to get in.
Because they have no AD carry, they're not really able to overload with numbers. This is just allowing LNG to kind of section off this part of the map. But now the Smolder is here. They've got to make the play. That Dragon is super low.
Zika flashing away from the cycle and getting hit up by the second proc. Almost the Mom steals it away, but Xiaofang able to secure the Elder. And now it's Reset City in for LNG Esports. Already 2 members down. That is Zhang falling before he even pops the Zhonya's. And Joshua will make it casualty number 3. Surely this should mean the end of the game as LNG win the fight. They get the Elder and they can march down middle lane.
And LNG police that part of the map. They completely prevent Ultra Prime's advance as Zika's going in.
Hook doesn't land on a Baiye. It's actually not over just yet. It's the big carry still alive here for Ultra Prime. Baiye has both of his summoner spells. It's almost 350 stacks on the Smolder, and there's no Baron buff in the hands of LNG with 13 seconds left on Junhao. So this game might not actually be over just yet, but LNG want it to be as they're headed on to the Nexus turrets right now. The death timers, though, are going to continue to
don't
tick
have
down
a wave.
to 0, and that means that LNG actually can't end. They will take another prize as an inhibitor, but now with Junhao alive, it is going to be very difficult for them to try to go for the throat.
They still have 90 seconds on that Elder.
Hold on, Elder, Baiye. Shields up nicely, will be able to stay alive, and the Needleworth comes through from Zhang. They're looking for a last ditch effort. They find Zika with the kill, but it will be Zhang getting another one back. The Mom comes out. Baiye is still untouched in the backline, but he finally will get targeted, and that'll be it. Xiaofang and LNG end up wiping the floor with Ultra Prime. It took them a while, but a win is a win nonetheless. They go 1-up in this best of 3 series.
It was slow to the bone there, Grapes. A very, very, you know, thinly paced game at the end of the day. But like you said, LNG with the scaling, with just overall, I feel the better objective play, right? Around those dragons, around those grubs. It felt like they were more prepared. They just had better timing than Ultra Prime, and Ultra Prime were always a few seconds behind, and this allowed, I think, particularly Zhuo to look really good on that Nautilus. Around that early to mid game, you know, he lost a little bit of effectiveness in that late game, but he was finding dredge line after dredge line. He was unafraid. He was constantly providing opportunities for his team, and this time around, those opportunities turned into advantages, and those advantages won them game number 1.
And shout out to Xiaofang and Zhuo specifically, right? I mean, those are the 2 players we were really excited about. I mean, 2 of the players we were really excited about. Also, Zika having a nice performance on the Rumble as well. But Zhuo being aggressive, Zhuo being able to use that experience that he's had in now 7 years of competitive play here in Chinese League of Legends to help his team out and help out a rookie in Fish One pick up his first win of the LPL in just his first game ever played. As for Ultra Prime, never felt like they were truly in the driver's seat. There were moments where it looked like, okay, the scaling might have come here. We see Zhang get this big kill. We see Smolder starting to come online, but not enough here in this game. And times, again, continuing to tick for both of these teams, but Ultra Prime just a little bit ahead of the curve because they have that extra match. Their first round robin is going to end after this series, Quacks. They really want to put a win up on the board, and that was not the formula to do it.
Yeah, this will be really, really grim for Ultra Prime if they're not able to put up a series win for them here. Like we said, LNG have a little bit more breathing room. This would be really good for them to get a series win, 1-3. You know, it's not the best score in the world, Grapes, but then again, it's definitely not going to be the worst score, as one of these guys has to topple the other in terms of record. And LNG are one game away from doing just that. They looked solid in game number 1, but I would like to see them play with a little bit more expedience. It was very, like we said, it was a slow game, but ultimately there were a decent amount of opportunities for Ultra Prime to actually come back, particularly that topside play. Got really worrying with the double teleport. I was, like I said, getting flashbacks.
What can I tell you, Quacks? This is the LCK teams of the LPL. They just play very slow, very methodical. And, you know, sometimes, like this game, it ends up with a win, although not necessarily all the time. As taking a look at this damage charts, I was not actually really understanding of the fact that Zika did so much here in this game.
Yeah, that was surprising as well. I mean, that's just what happens when you get Rumble, I guess, right? Honestly, any burn champion, I feel like kind of cheats it a little bit. Like, if I hear a Lilia main say, I outdamaged you, bro, I gapped you, bro, crazy self-report, all right? Come on.
And you're playing Kha'Zix probably, so you're only hitting one player at a time, right?
Yeah,
all
man,
5.
it's difficult out here in the assassin life.
You gotta look at some of these replays here after this first game. Again, loving the agency out of Zhuo kind of the entire way through. On this Nautilus, just always able to press that go button.
I mean, even when he does stuff like this, where his team is literally nowhere near him, and he throws down a dredge line, it still allows them to trade 1-for-1 because Nautilus just has the CC to be able to hold you in place long enough for help to arrive. And then it's plays like this that, you know, ultimately show that Ultra Prime was getting desperate at that point, right? They really wanted to try and overload sides. They wanted numbers advantages, but they were never really able to find them. And these engages came off as either really telegraphed or really out of place, particularly. I think Junhao had a very difficult game on the Wukong, both having to balance being the guy needing to, you know, prioritize those objectives after the early game, really tread it toward LNG, but also be that engage. It's hard to balance both and keep your life.
And on for Ultra Prime, you know, I think Zhang, again, played pretty well. He was able to hold his own against Zika. And again, this was a really nice engage from Saber as well. Maybe if things go differently, this could be the deciding fight. But then Xiaofang comes into play.
Yeah.
And this guy absolutely pops off on the Viego here.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting really nervous about this one, but the Viego manages to save this and gets a quadra for his efforts. And, you know, now this is starting to throw in a pattern for Mr. Xiaofang, as this is the second Viego game that he's played, and it's the second victory on Viego. It's the second victory also for LNG as a whole. So now we got to branch out a little bit as LNG. We can no longer rely on the champion that netted us our win. We got to go pick something that we either haven't played or something that hasn't garnered as much success. And I'm really interested to see what's going to fill that slot for game 2.
It's like the Cube Scion thing, but now here in the jungle for Xiaofang on the Nautilus. 2-0 now on this pick. But again, as you mentioned, the true fearless format means that not an option is selected again for the remainder of this series. And while LNG have taken a game at least one other time here in Group Nirvana, finishing off the series has been the trouble for them here in Split 3. The good news for LNG is that they actually really struggled at the start of the season in Split 2 as well. They were really a second half team in Group Nirvana. They jumped up high enough to survive elimination after it looked almost destined for them to go out early before Split 3 even began. But now LNG looking good against Ultra Prime. That is step 1 of many in order to try to keep yourself in contention in Group Nirvana, get yourself into top 4, and get yourself into that play-in stage.
And hey, you know, to you know, bring some comfort to Ultra Prime, you guys have taken it to 3, like, basically every single time. The only team that you didn't take it to 3 against was EDG. So I'm starting to recognize a pattern here, Grapes. We might just be, you know, fate is telling me that we are probably going to game 3. I can't, game 2 hasn't even started yet, but I can already tell you that we're totally going there.
Ultra Prime,
It's
they have
the UP
been
curse.
very, you know, resilient, I think is the best way to put it. Whenever they're able to force those game 3s, even though they have not won a series just yet, is Xiaofang, the winner of our Player of the Game award on the Diego. Very deserved performance for him as he picked up that very crucial quadra kill that ended up ending the game. But that's going to do it here for our first game of this series. Again, LNG up 1-0. We'll see if Ultra Prime can come back, force that decider for our second 3-game series of the day once we return from this short break here on LPL English.